I'm McKinney Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real-life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. Amanda J. Samuels is a visionary event producer and strategist. As the founder and CEO of Amanda J. Events and the creator of the She Is experience, Amanda has revolutionized the event production industry, setting new benchmarks for brand experiences, community engagement, and empowering BIPOC women's voices. Her flagship event, the She Is experience, is more than just a gathering. It's a movement that celebrates, connects, and uplifts women from diverse backgrounds. Through inspiring workshops, insightful panels, and valuable networking opportunities, Amanda creates spaces where BIPOC women and girls can see themselves, feel accepted, and become who they are meant to be. Her goal is to bridge generational gaps by healing, empowering, and inspiring individuals to embrace their uniqueness. So please welcome to the show, Amanda J. Samuels.
Hi, hello.
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl, hey.
How are you? How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I'm just coming off the high of the She's experience. So I'm really just in recovery mode, trying to get back into the swing of things with life and work and trying to find the balance. Cause summer's around the corner and I'm the person. I told my friend this morning, I'm like, what I'm going to do is have a good time on Friday and on the weekend. I don't reserve my brunches and my golf dates to the weekend. Like I will be outside having Monday through. So I'm doing good.
Good. Listen, life is to be enjoyed. I think we postpone our joy way too often. I think we've been conditioned, like you said, to wait until the weekend, to wait for special occasions. No, how about right now? How about we embrace the joy right now?
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we have to uncondition ourselves from, because you grow up and you're like, oh, fun's for the weekend, or like, and it's just so many boxes that we put ourselves in mentally, and it's just like, but people are outside. People are sitting on patios on Wednesdays having great dinners and times with friends. Why is it that we have to reserve things for the weekend? It's a no for me. We're coming out that box immediately. And stepping into just honestly just enjoying life. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be intentional and just free and flowing. I really like spontaneity. So I'm trying to get that back this summer. I kind of lost it last summer. Be interested in getting back into having just an amazing time just with family, with friends, and just honestly by myself too.
Yes, girl.
1,000%.
Yes, and yes to all of it. Like, so you mentioned last summer, and then you also mentioned Wednesday. So like, okay, two things. One, my partner then was now September will make it 3 years. We've known each other since we were 15. We went to high school together. And I probably would not be in a relationship right now if I hadn't known him that long, based on my history of relationships.
Mhm.
But every Wednesday is our date night. We don't
Oh,
wait
yeah.
till the weekend. We don't wait till
I
special
love that.
occasions. Like every
Yeah.
Wednesday is Valentine's for us. So
I love that. And I think that's so important. I feel like we need to stop putting the things that make life worth living for in this box of reserve. Like, oh, we have to reserve this for this time. Like, we have to reserve having a good time to the summer. First of all, my winters are lit. Okay. We like to go skiing. My family will go to Whistler, like have fun. Like I love doing Christmas gatherings, friends, like Friendsmas and all that stuff. Like just enjoy time with family. Always have our Jamaican breakfasts in the mornings. Like literally, like create traditions year round, and don't just leave things to weather, like to be weather contingent,
yes.
or like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I think it's time to just remove the box.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of
Yeah.
boxes.
Hmm.
So I love to start the show with an icebreaker question.
Okay.
And because I strongly believe, as kids, we have these vivid imaginations of who or what we want to be when we get
Yeah.
older. And culture, society, our family unintentionally puts us into this box and tries to limit our belief in what is possible.
Hmm.
So I would love to know
Yeah.
who or what did Amanda want to be when she was a little girl?
A wife and a mom.
Mm.
I I was the girl that was just like, I'm gonna be a housewife. 1000%. Like I want to
Mhm.
be a wife and a mom. There was nothing more important, more monumental, more satisfying than being a wife and a mom. And
Mm.
then, you grow up in a Jamaican household, so you only have a few options, you know them. Mhm. And so eventually I was just like, well, then I'll be a doctor because at least I could be a pediatrician and work with kids. Like I've always loved children. I feel like I've been raising babies since I was 7. I've been changing diapers. Like my god sister, I was 7 when she was born. Like I've always been interested in like doing that kind of stuff. And now I'm Auntie Noni, even though my name is Amanda.
Mm.
And I'm like, I always used to get at Jamaicans for having 2 names. I'm like, look at me.
Yes.
What is going on? Like, but yeah, I'm Auntie Noni now, and I'm loving it. But I'm ready for what's next and what God has for me. And I think for the first time ever in my life, I've actually vocally said I'm ready
Mm.
because I've allowed God to kind of process my heart and position me to understand the office of a wife and the office of a mother and the
Mhm.
humility that comes with it, the servanthood, the dying daily, but also still in the midst of all of that, having this understanding of self-love and knowing who God has called me to be so that I don't lose my identity in those things. So it's been a whole process, but
Whew.
yeah.
Girl, you said a mouthful.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I wanna unpack some of what you just said because one, you talked about the importance of self-love and losing your identity.
Hmm.
And you mentioned earlier about last summer. And I know, but I don't know,
Hmm.
kind of what you're referring to.
Yeah,
But I do know that we have both experienced narcissistic abuse. And I
absolutely.
know that that comes with having to relearn
Hmm.
the identity of who you are, having to relearn to set healthy boundaries, having to relearn to love yourself in a healthy way.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said before we started recording, this episode might get emotional because as much as we are on our healing journey and as much work as we have done, it comes
Hmm.
with triggers. It comes with,
Yeah.
reliving those memories.
Okay.
Um, so if you are open to
Hmm.
sharing that experience and how you are working through it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I go back to 2022. Um, I was on the cusp of turning 29, and I was looking up at God like, what? Hold on. Hold on. We are about to be a year away from the age where I'm supposed to have accomplished quite a bit, Father. And we aren't there yet. And I remember just kind of being in a time of prayer with God, and he's just like, I'm still teaching you what loving you looks like. And that's something that I actually fully kind of got into the discovery stage of that at the beginning of 2022. So I remember I was on the phone with one of my girls. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good. Like, I feel like I'm gonna be open to start dating in like the next year or two. And literally a week, I don't know why I was on Hinge, but I was. And I think I was meaning to get off of it. And then this person who would soon turn to be what I thought was my forever person, we started messaging. And I remember I went out with my girls one of the next few days and they're like, oh, this person seems to have promise. And I'm like, you wouldn't normally say that. So I'm like, okay, let's kind of look into it. And so I started dating or talking to this person. On their birthday was our first conversation. And his birthday and my birthday are probably about 11 days to 12 days apart. Within 48 hours, he told me I loved you. I was just like, okay. The crazy part is I didn't know what love bombing was. Prior to this, I hadn't dated for a while. And I was more so like in my intentional singlehood. And then prior to that, your girl wasn't saved. So I was dating all the hood dudes. I was just that, like, first of all, they're not about to play around. Like, don't get me and mess around. So like, I didn't know this world of narcissism and I'm just like, it's a lot. Like, and I remember my cousin telling me like, you were overwhelmed. You just didn't, but you appreciated it, but you were still overwhelmed. I didn't say it back, but I did say it within a time frame that was, I said on my birthday. So like within 11 days. I'm like, what the hell? But I feel like love is a choice too. So I feel like you can choose to love somebody. I didn't say I was in love with you, but I did love him. Anyways, and he had came to Toronto like 3 days after my birthday for a month, or came out to Canada. And yeah, it ended up being like the whole time he was here, I came to find out by January that he had a girlfriend. So I'm heavily into evidence, and I used to be. Now I'm just like, child, whatever you say goes. I believe you. But at the time, I was just like, I wasn't willing to talk to the person. So it's funny, God is so intentional. Like, I just stopped listening because the love was so amazing, and it was so, like, it felt so real, and it was everything I had prayed for, or I had wanted, I thought I had wanted. And I remember, my friend randomly got invited into this group on Facebook called Are We Dating the Same Guy? Random. I promise you.
No, sorry. I'm only laughing because my ex was in that group. Okay, that's why I laughed. Sorry.
No, I feel you. And it was just like, it was random. And she called me. She's just like, yes, this girl, a girl we both knew, invited her into the group. I was like, okay, sure. Like, that's random. She's just like, the next day she called me. She said, is this the guy? I'm like, sure is. And the person had said, hey, this guy, my boyfriend is in Canada, and I'm pretty sure he's cheating on me. He's talking to a girl, and I found her. Her name is Amanda. She looks like a really nice, pretty church girl, and I don't want to really ruin anything. She looks really great, but I don't know how to do it. And so I told my friend to tell her to DM me. And so she did, and I'm just like, okay, I thought I could do this. I can't. So I have this cousin that's like my go-to to just get all that I need. Like, she's the investigator friend. I'm like, okay, message her, tell her you're my cousin, and get all that you need to get. So she sent me like their WhatsApp. She sent the WhatsApp threads, but I'm just like, y'all are talking like every 2 to 3 days. Like, it wasn't giving girlfriend. So in my mind, this is the girls, we got to stop doing this. Ladies, stop it. Because in my mind, I was just like, okay. And how he explained it was like, she's just a fling. She's just a old flame that I kept sweet. He's from the UK. So he said, oh, I just kept it sweet. I'm like, Anyways, we had to move past that. Then he cried suicide on that call. So then we had to go into a whole deliverance session. It was wild. Girl, it was ridiculous. So that's when the suicide first came into play. Now, that's a tender spot for me because I remember struggling with this as a younger child. So I was just like, or when I was younger. So I was like in high school when I was dealing with some traumas from high school. So I was just like, okay, you know what? Let me just be sensitive in this moment. And then we navigated through it. Then he came back to Toronto for Valentine's Day. We had a great weekend. He was on that big podcast with you. And we went ring shopping the day after Valentine's Day. The love bombing, then the gaslighting was just, now that I'm listening to myself, I'm like, Brenda, Come on. So yeah, picked out my wedding ring, picked out his wedding band. We picked out a date, and he went on the podcast and told the whole world that he was going to marry me, and that he dare call my name. But the Lord is kind to not allow what we want to be it. Now, I should have left. So when that podcast came out, his ex-fiance, who he said he was engaged twice on that podcast, and his ex-fiance came out the woodworks. Like, the relationship did not end 2 years ago. It ended last summer. So that means he had been engaged literally the same year I met him. So I found that he was cheating on his fiance with a girl he met on Hinge, which is the new girlfriend. They ended up cheating on that new girlfriend with B, who he met on Hinge, who is the newest girlfriend.
My head
But
hurts.
at this point, I had already booked a flight, and I booked a non-refundable $1,400 flight to London for 5 weeks. So I was like, we gonna figure this out. And I wasn't gonna, I really didn't want to go. And God was just like, I just kept hearing grace. And I was like, how much grace though? Because sometimes when you hear those things, like grace to release them, though. Sometimes it's not
That
grace
part.
to stay.
That
so I
part.
was like, I needed grace to release and not to stay. And I went to London, and it was warfare after warfare. And him and his mom, they did a lot, but I really just felt uneasy. And like even the food, something was saying not to eat the food. It was a lot going on. And I felt there was a lot of witchcraft taking place, and I was fighting demons out there in London. I was just like, what is going on?
Wow.
And then he finally moved to, like, he ended up leaving his job and just up and moving to Toronto or moving to Canada. And so he went to Montreal to stay with his aunt for a bit because she was sick. And girl, May we were good, and then June he started acting weird. Now my sister's wedding is around the corner, so now he's acting weird. And I'm just like, what's happening? So he comes out for my sister's wedding, and like an incident took place with him and my dad. It was an accident that my dad did, and he's just like, oh, this is probably my karma. And I'm like, karma for what? Not knowing.
Sometimes they tell on themselves.
They tell. Yeah, they do. And so we went, my sister, we had this mansion booked for her wedding because it was a small, intimate wedding. So our immediate families were staying in the mansion, and we got him a room because he was my partner. And the night before the wedding, I went in the basement and I just felt uneasy. And I remember I said goodnight to him. I closed the door, and I got to the first flight of stairs, and I went back downstairs, and I said, I feel like you're cheating on me. I just can't prove it. The next day, he stopped sharing his location with me. Because all of these things he did after the podcast came out, and we found out he was lying. So he shared his location with me. He gave me his Instagram password, all these things. I never checked it. But that night, I was just like, I don't know. Something is uneasy. The next morning, I woke up kicked out the Instagram, kicked out the location, all these things. And he gaslit. And he was just a sourpuss at that wedding. And used my family to be like, hey, I'm just going through a lot. I'm going through a lot. And it's just so much lies, and built this whole facade, dancing with my mom at the wedding. And I was just like, and the whole time he was there, he was cheating on me. I came to find out that I had a whole weekend planned for us. And he left the next day after the wedding because he's like, oh, I need to go back and work double so I can move to Toronto in a month. And come to find out, the girl he was cheating on me with, her birthday was on the same day as my sister's wedding. And while he was at my sister's wedding, he was planning this cute little weekend in Montreal. So when he left, he got back to Montreal, he had a hotel room booked with rose petals and wine and all of this stuff. And it's just like, what I tell you, I felt uneasy. Like on my sister's wedding day, my body was doing things it has never done. I was breaking down in the chair. There was so much happening. And I was just like, and then I started, but I didn't know any of this until like in the summer. And I ended up finding out that he was cheating on me because I had gotten him a DJ gig at one of my clients' events, and he was staying at my house. And I had a funeral to go to, and he actually let me go to the funeral by myself and stayed at my house. And then I just felt like he was cheating on me, and he kept telling me, oh, you're not ready for a relationship. I said, I'm ready to be married. I'm already a wife. You are not ready. And gaslight, he just kept trying to make me feel like I was a problem. And then that night, the night of the event, I found out that he was cheating on me. The girl messaged him while I was standing right over him. And I was talking to him in my brother's room, and in my brother's old room. And the phone went off, and I saw a heart come in, and I kicked him out at 2:00 in the morning. I said, out of my house. And it was a good thing because my dad was home. and my brother was home, and they're like, if
Mm-hmm.
you ever knew what was going on, it would have been on popping. And I said, I know, but I don't know. God just gave me the grace to kind of. I already had broken up with him because I found him on Hinge,
Mm-hmm.
like 2 weeks before, but we were trying to work through it, and he started mocking me. He's just like, yeah, because you're God's favorite, right? I'm like, I told you, you could never cheat on me in this country and then not find out. And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why. I'm like, first of all, Amanda, who are you? Why would you ever say that? Like, that's a bold statement. But I'm telling you, even when it came out of my mouth, it wasn't even me saying it. It was like God was just like, oh my God, that's a really bold statement to say. And literally, the person he ended up cheating on me with, we have a mutual friend who's one of my closest friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was a part of like my circle at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, that's awkward. So by the time he left my house, flew back to Montreal, walked in the girl's house, like, oh, good morning, love. Yeah, that's what he did. I was already on the phone. And then it got worse because while she was crying so profusely, I'm just like, why are you crying? Found out that he actually asked her to be his girlfriend while we were still dating. So he had 2 girlfriends until I broke up with him 10 days after he had asked her to be his girlfriend. And then because she had thought she was pregnant. I said, girl, don't have a baby with that man. And I knew exactly where she was because I said, I remember. And I've been on an abstinent journey with the Lord over the last 7 years. I only ever slip up when I'm in relationships. Hence why I've only been in 2 relationships in 7 years. And I remember the first weekend that I slipped up with him, he had attempted to get me pregnant. I said, absolutely not.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Christmas morning, I was at Shoppers Drug Mart. I said, absolutely not. And
Mm-mm.
so sometimes you just have to I was clouded, and I was just like, yeah, but this is the person I was going to marry. And my family didn't take it well either because like I've never brought anybody home.
Mm.
My parents, people have like my siblings have met some of my exes or situationships, but I've never formally brought a man home in 30 years of my life
Wow.
and introduced them to my parents. He was the first.
Wow.
My family did not take it well because he really played whoever he was supposed to be in that moment in order to, he really did what he had to do.
Girl.
Yeah.
First of all, I am sorry you even had to experience that. Second of all, when you have never experienced narcissistic abuse before,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what you're looking at. So when you said,
Yeah.
you didn't know about the love bombing, the gaslighting, all those things,
Yeah.
it's like, your spirit, your intuition will tell you something's off, but you
Yeah.
don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So the red flags are waving, but you think, oh, it's carnival time. Like,
Not pink.
like,
It's orange.
yeah,
It's not red. Yeah, no
right.
facts.
So, I mean, as someone who has also experienced narcissistic abuse, I will never judge anyone for them giving someone grace or staying or justifying any of those things while you're in the situation because you don't know better, because you don't know what you're looking at. And I want to say this because let's differentiate some things, because for the listeners who are listening, it is very common for people to overuse the word narcissist. Yes, that's someone who, grandiose personality, all about them, blah, blah, blah. But narcissistic personality disorder, it is in the DSM. And I am clarifying that because I hosted an event for a very big relationship coach who is so-called also faith-based. And at his event, he had the nerve to say that is not even in the DSM. People need to stop using that word, blah, 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 blah. So fact check people.
Yeah.
So I wanted to clarify that. There's so many things like, unfortunately, these spirits, they are basically the same, but in a different shell. So your experience with one, my experience with one, all of my people who are in my DMs about their experiences with one, same stories, same character traits, same behaviors.
Yeah.
It's the same spirit in a different body. Right. And it's sad that they leave a trail of destruction,
Mm,
but in their manipulation, because they strongly believe in the BS that they are saying,
1000%.
they create a completely different narrative and perspective from the truth, from the facts,
Mm-hmm.
in order to cover up their disdain for themselves, in order to cover up their behavior, in order to justify their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And it is sad when people, and I want to say, because I've seen the comments on YouTube, and I've seen, even when I was sharing some of my own experiences, people's
Mm-hmm.
comments that people who have never experienced narcissistic abuse, or people who are not aware of this
Yeah.
personality type,
Mm-hmm.
will cause further harm by victim shaming, where
Yeah.
it's like, you were the one that was hurt, you were the one that was manipulated, you were the one that was lied to, and the whole nine yards. And they will place blame on you. Well, why did you stay? Why did you this? Why did you? How about,
Yeah.
like,
And
how?
also, like, you have to really be in it because, like, in the moments where, like, I was ready to leave, it was always something. So, for instance, the first moment, the suicide claim. And if you're a human
That's
being,
common for them.
yeah, if you're a human being with a heart who has empathy, and also as a mentor who has dealt with young girls with suicide and seen and understand the high rate of suicide in Black men, you take that stuff seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't just brush it under the rug. And then the next time around, he had shared some stuff with me about some childhood traumas. So I don't know if those things are manipulated or real. I'm not sure, because he knew my childhood trauma. So I'm not sure. And after talking to his parents, his mom, and there's the current thing, certain things couldn't be fact checked, but I will, like, and I probably, when I was on my way out, yeah, I was savage. So I probably threw that under the bus at the end, but like in the moment, it's just like, this is the person I love, and this is what they dealt with as a child. And Black men hold so many things, especially when you're dealing with a Black man. You have a different level of grace for them, but it's just like, protect yourself at the end of the day, because you can't compromise your peace of mind to try to save somebody. At the end of the day, what this relationship taught me was that only God can change somebody. Like, you can't do nothing about it. And some of them will play the God card. They'll come to church, but look at the fruit. Like, if they're not calling for Bible study 6 months in, and you actually realize, you look up and like, wow, we only actually went to church twice. Like, actually, you will know them by their fruit. And it's like, but that takes time. Like, fruits harvest in seasons. So you're not always going to know what's real and what's not. And that's why I said God gave me grace, and I gave grace, because it's just like, I tried it all, and it didn't work. And like, the true colors definitely did come to light. But at the end of the day, like, you can't judge somebody for their story. One thing I always say is, I will never judge somebody for the realities of what they've been through. It's everybody has a purpose and an appointed time. Like, your heart is to help somebody else, so that your testimony will help them through their tests, so that people can avoid. I said, let me go through things so that my daughters don't have to go through these things. Like, I used to pray those prayers.
Girl, let me scratch my head back, because I have
And it's that?
I have a child right now
Yeah.
who, okay, so I have had a couple of relationships with men that they need to be, like, clinically diagnosed, but they, like, they display all of the traits.
Yeah.
I have studied this. I've spoken on this. I have had classes on this, like masterminds on this. And my children sometimes are in the room or close enough to hear. So they are aware. They know. So to now see that I have a child who is in a relationship with someone who is a walking red flag, like on fire.
Yeah.
All the traits.
Yeah.
But she doesn't see it.
Those are hard ones. But you know what the truth is? It's at this, like I said, sometimes you can't save people from their
Right.
story. But because you've been through it, you know how, when the other side comes, because it's one or two things that happen. God's going to change the man, or the relationship have to mash up. I wanted it to. You know what I mean? It's one of the two. So it's just like, you'll have the grace and the compassion to help her navigate through that season. Because
Yes.
sometimes people do have to go through their own hard, and you can't save them more. And people have to learn that, listen, even if you see it, they may not, and they have to go through their own hard, and they have to navigate that season. But it's because that's a part of their story and
Right.
for what they're called to do. But I think people who have Twitter fingers and hide behind cameras and computers and phones and just comment and blame the victims for being human and having empathy and having a heart to want to love and actually functioning as the way our creator made us to be in relation with others.
Yeah.
Like, for me, like, you miss me with that, please.
Yeah. I agree with you 1000%. So a couple of things with, and this is mainly for the listener, because I know you've probably done your own research, but like these personalities, these spirits, they can be created through their own trauma. So it's like, we could be siblings and experience the same childhood trauma, childhood wounds, and one of us turns out to be a complete empath and the other one turns out to be a complete narcissist, right? Because through the one with empathy is like, oh my God, I don't want anyone else to feel this. Let me help. Let me do this for everybody. I want to love on everybody. Let's make them feel good. And then on the flip side, there's the narcissist that is like, well, I need to make sure nothing ever happens to me. This is my protection shell, and then even at the point of their trauma, their brain, it's like it stops developing. So there's a part of their brain that stops developing why they don't have the ability to feel empathy, why they don't feel the things that you and I feel. Like they're in that sociopath category.
Right.
And then what's also hurtful is that they are attracted to empaths. They are attracted to people who are going to nurture them. They are attracted to people with strong qualities that they can emulate. So it's like, it's not like, oh, they saw you as a weak victim. It's like, no, they saw you as a strong, beautiful woman that he's like, I'm going to hold on to her and I'm going to emulate her qualities because that's going to lift me up. Like, learning a lot of these things kind of helped me process through my grief. And I would love if you could share with the listeners, like, I guess your seasons of grief, what that was like for you.
Yeah. Grief for me was a process. I really call it healing. For me was a process. And the first process of that was grief, and grief had different stages. At the root of it all, I would say I needed to love and value myself a little bit more in order to be okay. Like, it's hard because there's this fine line of loving yourself enough to receive this kind of love, but then also loving yourself enough to not need this kind of, like, you know what I mean? So grief for me started off as anger. I was angry. And the thing about me that I used to have like the spirit of anger. And that's because I went through a lot of traumas as a young girl, and then also in high school. And so I used to use anger as my protective barrier. But I really got delivered from that. But I remember it started to come back up. And one thing I never lost, I just think God is trying to repurpose it, is the quickness of my tongue. Girl, I could put 4 and 4 words together to make you rethink your whole life. I could. And I don't got to cuss to do it. Like, I know I have the power to destroy with my mouth, which is why I know God has called me to use the power of my mouth to give life. So but it took me knowing that I had the power to do the opposite way. And it's a choice. So I was angry, and there were certain things I said and I ripped to shreds, and he made me feel like scum. Cause like, it was just like a light switch went off. Like, you went from being madly in love with me to just looking at me like, I don't care. Huh? Are you mad? So I'm gonna show you what don't care looks like. And I ripped him. But I also tried to do it in, like, to him, I kind of ripped him, but like not, probably in 1 or 2 conversations. But what it really was is I really tried to save her. So my first instinct was like, I was angry, but I had a 3.5 hour conversation with her. I didn't overly rip him. I just told the truth. I said, this is what happens. I sent her all the photos. I sent her the pictures. I sent her everything. I said, because I'm like, so what did he say about the necklace? He said he bought it. I said, that's not what happened. What did he say about the love bracelet? He said he bought it. That's not what happened. Like I had to, so I tried to show her, I asked her questions and tried to show her that the whole relationship was a lie that she had built with him. So I could just make her see the truth. But she stayed. I can't say them all. It is, people have to go through. So for me, I was angry. I was angry. And then I got to the point where I was just like, I'm about to make two people that will not matter to me in a year from now, make me go back to the girl I was that I fought so hard to not be. So I remember there was a day I had to surrender my anger and I just cried. And then I was in like a coasting space. Like I was existing. I was trying to just find back me because I lost Amanda for the first time and I struggle. So like even I struggled with suicide near the end of the relationship. And I was just like, whoa, I haven't been there in a long time. So many things that came back that I was just like, I was just trying to coasting and God bed rested me. He's just like, you're going to rest. You're not going to work. No clients, no nothing. You're going to. And I remember there was a day where I was in the master. I used to like fight demons in the middle of the night. Like I would be sleeping and then fighting like things I never dealt with, like sexual demons. Like I never struggled with masturbation. I've never struggled with any of those things. And like things would try to come and I would have to start fighting in the night. And I'm like, what is going on? But what you allow yourself to connect to, you gotta fight to break all those things off. And that was a war for me. And then I got to this place where I was just like, I don't care about them. But I'm just going to try to move on. God's just like, that's not the way it works. It's like, you're going to go through forgiveness now. And I said, no, we're not. And I remember there was a morning I woke up and I was heavy. And I have this playlist I listen to. It's called Soaking in His Presence by William Augusto or something on Apple Music. It's like probably like 72 hours of just worship. And I tell you, I sat there and God is just like, you're going to forgive them today. Today is the day you have to. I said, I don't want to. He's just like, it's okay. I know you don't, but talk to me. Tell me about it. And I started telling him about all the things I've been feeling. I finally stopped and spoke to him about it. And he's just like, cry. And I cry. And he's just like, now forgive them. And he made me say it over and over. I forgive this person and this person. I forgive. And then when I finally was able to say it like, and actually mean it, he's just like, now forgive yourself. I had another fit. Because I was mad at me for, why could you not see it? How could you stay so long? How could you let him make you come out of character? How could, like, so many things I was beating up myself about. He's like, forgive yourself. And I forgave myself that day. And I kid you not, the fruit of the inner circle, the fruit of the She's experience, both of those brand identities were built on that day. I've never been a logo in my life. I don't know where this, like the Holy Spirit literally consumed me. And in 2 hours, I built the logo and brand identity for the inner circle and the She Is experience. Wow. That is that today. All in 2.5 hours.
Wow.
I didn't know where it came from. And I was just like, when God has you, surrender your will to his, even if it's hard. And it's going to feel like the hardest you've ever done in your life. It's going to feel like you are giving away your soul, but you are, to get the Spirit of Christ and to get the reward of what it means to be a daughter. And God was, give me that low hanging fruit. Give me those crumbs that feel like heavy rocks on your chest and watch me give you purpose. I said, but it's our human nature that makes us feel like, oh, I can't give this up, and I'm going to be a sucker. I'm going to be a punk. No, let me be a sucker and a punk. That's what God has behind his back. Child, take all of this.
Yeah.
And I went through that. And then slowly, God had to make me unlearn unhealthy habits.
That part.
You have to unlearn and then relearn. So I had to like 2024 for me was relearning who Amanda is. And the thing is, it's not who I was. You evolve now. When you go through stuff like that, you ain't going back to who you were, child. New levels. And I was like, I need you to relearn who you are. I need you to relearn what your business is. I need you to relearn what your purpose is. Everything. It was just like new levels. And for the first 3 months of the year, I was in a drought, financial drought. And God was just like, because you've put in the atmosphere the level you want me to take you to, trust me that I'll take you there. And God said, no more 4-figure clients. Here come this mid-5. One client was more expensive than all the money I made last year.
Yeah.
And he's just, I have new for you. And it's not even just that. It's the fact that the clients are Christian.
Yeah.
Men of God who value marriage and fatherhood and legacy. And it's just like, you're not playing with me.
That's where you're going to find your husband.
I said, you're not playing with me. And it's just like, but all because of forgiveness and surrendering. Surrendering is the hardest thing for us to do as Christians or as people, period. But it's the easiest thing for God to give us the best. Yes. It's like the easiest. Yes. God is like, I'm just asking you for this one thing. I'm going to give you everything you want. He's giving this one thing. And for us, it's just like, oh, give us my whole life, my whole world. And it's like
the ego.
Honestly. And it's just like, I'm like, Father, you know what we need before we even need it. And that's why, even when it comes to love, the way I approach, like I see my friends all the time, like, oh, I need to go this place to find my man. I'm like, let me tell you something. If the God that got me out of that relationship and got me into this new form identity and built these purpose avenues out of me in the midst of the hardest season of my life, can do all of that, I promise you, God got me and my husband. Yeah. When the timing is right, He will position me to be found. I'm no longer stressed about that stuff. And I know we like to give God certain areas, but we don't want to relinquish our relationships. No, give Him that. Because then you get what you actually need. Because I realized what I thought I wanted, I don't want.
I hear you.
Give me what you know I need. I want this one, but what do you want?
Yeah.
I don't want what you don't want. And because I see what that got me. Heartbreak and heartache.
Listen, I could completely relate to everything you are saying, where it's like when you come to the point of being able to forgive not only just them, but yourself, because going through that experience, because you lost trust in yourself, right? It's like, how did I let that happen? How did I, all those feelings. So when you learn to forgive them and yourself, it opens up a door of abundance that we didn't even know was there. And I can completely relate to what you're saying about the clients, because when I was with that person, it was like business wasn't flowing like it normally should. It was blocking my blessings. And when I released that, and I was like, when I came to the point of acceptance after I went through my grieving process, the way that business started booming, the way that opportunities started showing up, the way that resources started showing up, the last 2 years, I've had one client that covers my annual salary. And I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. Yeah. Like I'm good. I let it go. Absolutely. But I know that there are people that have a hard time with forgiveness because they're like, this person did this to me. Their ego is holding on to, what that person did. But at the end of the day, that forgiveness is for us. It's for releasing that energy. It's for releasing the heaviness, the feelings that we are holding on to. They don't care. They've moved on. They've been moved on.
and let me tell you one of the hardest words God gave me. This is what humbled me and made me I'm like, okay, we're going to have to do this forgiveness thing. I remember God told me so clearly, you are not whatever satisfaction you think I'm going to give you, because I used to say to him, oh, I'm God's favorite or whatever. I said, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction you think you want. I'm not going to give it to you. He's just like, so you could, because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm Christian. God got me. God loves all of us. So when you realize that part, you're just like, oh, okay. Now, favor is different. But it was just like, no, God loves all of us. And so God was just like, you think I'm going to do something that's going to repay, but I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. And even if I do repay it, you're not going to be around by then to see it. So you might as well go on and forgive him, because And to this day, I'm pretty positive they're still together. But am I not the happiest person in the world that they are? Because I'm like, thank you, Father. I would have never been able
Because that's her problem now. It's not yours.
absolutely. I'm like, I would have never been able to do half of the things God is calling me to do. And still like, I'm like, that is her couch she's chilling on now. You go play those video games on her couch. That ain't my problem.
That part.
I bless the Lord that the man he has for me is not like, he can play all the video games he wants in the world, but that man has legacy in his mouth.
Yeah.
That man has vision. And I'm just like, I am so grateful that God was just like, no, this man is for this woman. She want it, she can have it. This is not what I have for you, daughter. I know what you need because I know what I put in you. I will send you what you need. You just trust me on that and keep doing what you need to do. Eventually, you're going to cross paths. And God was just like, you was never going to cross paths with your husband on the level you were at.
You had to release that to make space for what's to come.
And go up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the higher you go, the lower you bow. Like got, like humility comes with it. But it's just like, yeah, I just have to trust God. I'm just like, I have faith that if you could work all these other things out in my life, love ain't, you are love. You go prioritize that. So I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah. Like what you said. So I was thinking about, when you were giving him a piece of your mind and you said that you were, trying to help her. So when I started doing all of my research, and it's like, I wanted to reach out to people and do certain things, but they tell you like anyone that they are with now, because they have already convinced them that you are crazy, you are the one with the problem, that person is not going to believe anything you have to say. Right. So, when I listen, they have already convinced them that you were crazy. You were the problem. They tell the world that all their exes are crazy. Well, maybe because you drove them crazy, sir. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? My ex that did the most damage to me when he moved out of my house and ghosted me. I thought he was staying on his mother's couch, but come to find out, he had found some other woman's house to go stay in.
They're going to find a house, girl. One thing they're going to do is they're going to find a house and a couch.
Oh, he's still there. He's still there. But that's her problem now, right?
Totally.
That is her problem.
Yes, you.
When I started studying the forgiveness piece of it, I realized there's different levels of forgiveness, right? So there's like zero forgiveness, there's no resolution, we're stuck in anger. There's the conditional forgiveness. It's like if they apologize, then I'll forgive them. It's transactional. There's the transformational forgiveness where it's like there's no expectation, no apologies needed, and I had to do that with all my exes. That's my own closure. I forgive you. You're out of my space, out of my life. I'm good. There's the unconditional forgiveness. It's the one God gives to us, so we give to our children. But at the end of the day, forgiveness is good for us and the receiver. So whether or not they choose to change their behaviors, whatever. Do you? That's on you. That's for you to deal with. That's for your judgment day, not mine. I have forgiven you. I've released all of that because I am making space for the abundance and the blessings that are to come. And like you said, you birthed businesses out of it. You birthed things to help create impact out of it. So as much as it hurts to have those experiences, our pain transmuted purpose. Our pain birthed impact and opportunities, and we were able to bless other people. So it's like we are taking that pain and I guess recreating it. We've transmuted into something beautiful where we're able to bless other people and ourselves at the same time.
Absolutely. And I think that's what I want people to realize. Like pain is inevitable. Heartbreak, love is a risk, everything, it's all inevitable. But at the end of the day, and I don't think love is a risk, love is a choice. I think people start saying that because God is a choice. Just so love is, choosing God is never a risk. So I would say, but it's inevitable. And I think if you just allow yourself to get into the mentality to be like, no matter what, I can and will get through this, that what you went through was purposeful and for somebody. Like your story is what makes you operate in the fullness of your purpose. sharing your truths. People go through so much hard things and they stay so quiet. And I'm like, your freedom and your breakthrough is on the other side of your story.
Yes.
Open that mouth and tell your truth, because you don't know who you're going to free and whose life you're going to change. And it's authenticity is the greatest currency.
Yes.
For impact.
Yeah.
We have in the world right now. And people being authentic, being honest. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be honest. Talk about where you're at on your journey. That's a good time. Don't take my advice with a grain of salt. It worked for me.
Yeah.
Unless it's the Bible, then you could take that one for real. But other than that, this worked for me. And I'm just going to share my truth. Am I still going through my healing process? For sure. But I think I'm pretty much on the other side. I think I'm just on the relearning part now. I'm more sure. I feel no art. I feel no anger. I feel nothing. I'm so, and I'm getting my joy back. And I knew it because I went to a space that I had taken him to that was so sacred to me. And it was a place of peace. And that experience I had there was so detrimental and heartbreaking. And I went back there on Monday and I had an amazing time. And I say to people, let 2024 be the year where you, or any year you listen to this podcast, let it be the time where you steal back your joy in the places where once were safe for you, that you compromise for a person that is no longer around, for a temporary feel, for somebody who took a space that was near and dear to your heart, near and dear to your peace, near and dear to your joy. And they came in and disrupted that space. Take somebody new, take somebody permanent, whether that's your child, if you're now married, your husband, whether that's your mom, or go by yourself and recreate a new memory and steal your joy back.
Yeah.
Steal it back.
Yeah.
No
I love
more.
that.
No more.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you, Amanda, for your transparency. Thank you for being open to sharing your healing journey. I know that the process in itself is not easy. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your energy, your wisdom. Definitely have to have you back on so we can, talk more about the process in itself. But before we go, I would love if you could tell the listeners where they can learn more from you and about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on Instagram at She Is Amanda J. If you go there, all of my pages are in the bio. So I have my experience that we just launched. It's not even mine. I think it's God's for the city of Toronto. It's an event for multi-generational BIPOC women where they can come and just feel safe to be who they are and understand why they exist. So that's at she.is.experience. I have my conversational series. I refuse to call it a podcast because I'm not that consistent. The Inner Circle, I think that's at Inner Circle TV _ at Inner Circle TV on Instagram. And I think at Inner Circle TV _ on YouTube, or it's called the Inner Circle TV. So that's fine. And, business wise, Amanda J Events, event production. But all that is on my website, www.sheisamandaj.com.
Thank you so much. I will definitely have all of your links for them to just click and connect with you directly. They don't have to search too far.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Love it.
Thank you again, Amanda, honestly, for your transparency, your energy, for co-creating this experience with the listeners, me, you, and God. I truly, truly appreciate it. I think it's funny how actually the first time I met you, I was with my narcissistic ex.
That was at Victory's event, right? At Oretta. That's the time I met you. I don't even know if you know. I don't even know.
I'm like,
when did you think you met me? Let's start there.
Okay, we'll talk about that off air. Because I didn't want to say where this, because I try not to give this, as much as I talk about my situation, and I even got legal advice that I'm okay to say the person's name. I choose not to give them any power, any credit. So I don't even want to say where, so that, people. But thank you so much. We will definitely. You're welcome. You are very welcome, and you're welcome to come back. So if there is any way that listen, when you're ready, we're
here now.
We can do a part 2. We'll do a part 2. If there is any way that I could be of value to help you or your community, I would be honored to. Just keep me posted. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
To all you healers out there, until next time, subscribe on all platforms. Don't forget to rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. If you can think of 5 women that need to hear Amanda's story, that could take some serious value from what Amanda had to share, please share it with them. Feel free to screenshot this week's episode and tag us with your aha moments. You can tag Amanda at @SheIsAmandaJ. You can tag myself at @TheRealMcKinney-Smith. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. So let's continue to heal her.